So to start off with, guess what I was handed after lunch? This is from the Moose Lodge, and it's our bill for some dinners that we've had for the past 3 times. Do you guys want to see a physical me entering an expense into Adilas and physically cutting a check for them?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is a real life thing right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually log out, and I'm going to have to log in as myself because Adilas Demo doesn't have options into into Adilas, okay? Okay, we'll go into Adilas. Oh, sorry, my bad. We'll go into not Adilas University, into Adilas.biz, and click Select. Okay, so this is my interface right here. Pretty simple. What I'm going to do is basically you pull the expense out right here. I have my printer on. I have my checks right here. I have everything that I need, and I basically come down here, and I have lots and lots of little details of what it was. Okay. So basically, the first thing that I'm going to do is I already know that I have the Moose's Lodge in here because we paid them before. So if I was going to do it, I would go like this. Vendor, some sort of moose or something like that, and hit go. At this point, here's the more digital ideas and moose. Brought up MOO is what I searched for, okay? So if I wanted to, I could click here and say, what have we paid them before? Looks like I just paid them $225 to use this facility. And right here, like I do not have this one, it's brand spanking new. So what I would do is I'd say create a new expense receipt using this payee, click, today's dates, and that looks great, that's the date that they have on. The total is 165, and come on down, I can see if they have an actual invoice. Okay, they actually have an invoice number, it's 12357. Okay, and then basically I can say meals for 3 days of training for the Denver training session. If I wanted to, I could even detail it out, saying 11 on one day, 10 on one day, 12 on the next day, etc., etc. Okay, but I'm not worried about that. So this is my main, kind of just gathers my information. I come down here. As soon as I leave this field, it'll actually populate this line description thing. So as soon as I leave the field, it automatically populated that guy. I clicked here. These are different our chart of accounts, basically, if you will, our expense types. So I'm going to go like this, food, and we put this under meeting clients. Okay, it's going to be assigned to my service location. I'm going to leave everything else as is. I'm going to come down here and say 165 check out of our bank from Pueblo Bank and Trust. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say check number. And I have to look real quick because I don't know. 2058. Okay, I'm going to leave my payment notes blank. I personally don't put anything there for that particular reason, but I will say add the expense receipt. So at this point, my new number is 4,044. It's tied to the Denver Moose Lodge. It's totally booked to my income statement, normal expense, semi-fixed, and then eventually to food, and then finally to client meetings. That's my 5-level deep booking, okay? Here's my whole thing, and I currently have not printed the check. I have the check right here. You feed it into your printer, however your printer works, okay? And each printer is slightly different, so there's not a magic yay or nay on that. But watch this. I'll click Print Check, which basically what it does is it gathers information from the different pieces. So it's going to be Denver Moose Lodge. It converted the 165 into a numeric string. It put all of my pieces where I want it to go. I hit Print Check. I select the correct printer. Like I'm connected to multiple different printers here, okay? I don't want it to come out of a label printer. So you got to make sure you select the right one. Click, hit Print. Basically what this does is it queues it up. It might take just a second because this is just barely coming up. But what it does is it says, hey, according to me, I've successfully spooled it to your printer. I can hear my printer right now kind of doing its thing. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and return right back to the expense receipt, and it'll actually say, hey, just so you know, I no longer have a button. It's now showing printed. I look at my check to make sure everything looks good. Everything lines up just like I wanted it. And here's what I do to document it, okay? I can document one of 2 ways, okay? Matter of fact, why don't we do 2? Why don't we do 2 different documentations? So first off, I'll grab this little guy right here. I have to open up a little scanner wizard so that I can scan my document. I'm just going to say show the desktop, open up my little wizard, and basically the reason I open up my wizard is I have some preset settings. So instead of scanning at a super high level, I go next and I hit custom, which I've already told it to set it to 100 DPI instead of something that's outrageously huge. I go next and next. So in the meantime, the scanner's going to start working. I'm going to go back to Adilas right here, go to the expense receipt line items, go find the little no photo like this or this will take me to the add photo section, okay? I usually just click here because it's a bigger button. Click. It's ready for me. As soon as I hear this, it's just returned, it's scanned. I'm going to hit browse, and then depending on where it's at, mine is actually from the desktop in a folder called Adilas Scans, and it was the very last one that I just barely did. I'm going to say open, add the photo, and this will actually be the $165 expense. Basically, that's their bill that they did for me. I'm going to pull it out. The number of the expense is right here, physically on top of this guy right here, 4040. 4044. So I go like this. I take my pen, and exactly like Roxanne, or maybe it was Liz that was saying this, as far as your documentation, I go like this. ER, and I go 4044, put a little box around it, and I put it up to the side. This one's done, okay? Now if I even wanted to, say I wanted to even document the check that I was going to pay him. Stick that thing in the printer, in the scanner. So I basically go like this. Come back to my wizard, hit back, hit next, come back here and say, you know what? Let's go ahead and go back to the photo management page. I'm just waiting to hear my scanner say that it's done so that I can now add my little piece. That's my cue right there. I say browse, and now I come back and grab the very last one, which would be 75. Click, go. Like I'm skipping captions and anything, but you could, if you wanted to, actually add captions. So at this point, right now, if I clicked on my gallery, my entire thing is done, okay? Here's the physical invoice that said, hey, you owe me for these pieces, and it's $165 from the Moose Lodge. Or you could physically click on the check, and here's the physical check that was printed out of Adilas with the $165, okay? Piece of cake. Piece of cake, okay? So at this point, I'm done. So technically, the bank doesn't know anything happened, but I did already start this on its journey. So I would basically take this guy out, sign the check. If you look at this check right here, okay, watch this for just a second. Look what we did on the top of it automatically. We put the expense receipt number right here, and we put it in a box. It's physically right here on my thing, okay? It also tied it to the check numbers. We recorded check numbers, amounts, dates, any sort of notes, et cetera, including their little invoice number, whatever needed to happen. We automatically are pulling those pieces in and through. Yes, Yuri?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, have you ever thought of, you know, for someone wants to have to make like really big payments to people, have you ever thought of an option of like maybe having Adilas like incorporate like Swift codes that would send instructions to like counterparty banks, etc., to do like direct wires?
Yeah, just absolutely. Like you're talking like QR codes and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, if you're paying like $500,000 to somebody, I mean, you know, rather than write a check, you know, you want something that's directly instructs your bank to send the wire, like via the Swift message.
I think that would be awesome. And have we thought of it? Probably not yet. We need people like you to give us ideas. Like, you have to realize that, like, we are a small enough core that there's no physical way. Even Steve, who kind of dreamed this whole thing up, there's no physical way that he could kind of be like, oh. Like, we have tons of dreams. But sometimes what happens is, even because technology is advancing underneath us, what we do is you guys tend to be our eyes and ears, and then what we do is we try to kind of gather and capture those different ideas and such. So even your ideas on a quick export to Excel, I can totally see that almost on every page virtually. Yeah. But it has to be built, and it has to even be coming up with the idea first, and then you're like, okay, cool. Here we go.
Yesterday you showed us that you had something you could flip to Excel.
Oh yeah, you can export to Excel right now. What he's talking about is he's literally talking like this. You go anywhere, and all of a sudden it's like, export this page, this data right now. Don't do any other searching, whatever. Like, quickly get me out to Excel right now. I've got multiple places that I can take you to get to Excel data. Okay, watch this. If I come down to this bottom part here, there's a little part, all exports to Excel. Okay, click. Now watch this whole column right here. This whole exports to Excel. Under clients, I have tons of options. Under expense receipts, I can do main, line items, payments. I can go to the advanced search, pick and choose, okay? Flex grid tie-ins, invoices. Do you want lists or groups or this or that or payments or like you can get to tons and tons of different pieces that are exportable to Excel, but it's not, what he wants to do is he wants to say something like this. Say I went to expense receipt 4044. Wasn't that the last one I just did? Denver Blue Slot, boom, boom, boom. Almost like this, like a virtual little link that you click on and you're like, bam, like that quick. That's what he's actually talking about. So that would be great. That's very similar to like.
Can you take your income statement and export it for it to Excel?
Okay, not to Excel. You can actually export that to like a PDF document right now. But basically, it's just a matter of like, what are the needs? And what he's basically saying is like, forget saying only this report is exportable and only this one. He's like, doggone it, let's convert this thing. Get me to the data quick, man. I want to just play. So that's what he's kind of saying.
Taking the income statement and exporting means that I can manipulate some more, or I can make some ratios.
Sure. What some people do right now is they'll actually literally copy and paste, okay? Because Excel can handle a table because it knows which columns to kind of, then in which rows. And so what they'll do is they'll run a report. Like let's just say, for instance, I'm just going to log out of this one and go back into the play site right here. We'll go right back into where we were working at. We're in the Greenway row. So let's say, for instance, we went like this, like all deposits. Go get me this little report. Here's a whole bunch of information. What he's saying is like, go get it. What you can do is you can go like this. You can actually select all of this data like this, and you can go Control Copy. And if you have Excel open, you can actually do it right now as is, but it's just not a conversion process. So basically, I'll just open up a Microsoft Excel. I just selected that table worth of data, and we're going to see if we can actually paste it and see if it will stick inside of Excel. Okay? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It kind of depends on the table. But we're going to give it a shot just so you can kind of give a gander, if you will. Okay? So mine's just kind of coming up. It's just taking a second. But as soon as it does come up, we'll paste it. But anyway, any questions on that little live demo there as far as how easy that was to pay a bill there? That was just a straight bill. That was, as in Roxanne's terms, that's a straight expense, okay? It never hit my payables homepage. I cycled that thing all the way through. I hit boom, 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 boom. I built the output. I documented it. The bank has no clue about this now, okay? That's another piece that needs to come later on once they physically deposit it, okay? Yes?
I just point out to Joe, I don't think you could do that in Peachtree or QuickBooks.
Oh, yeah. You can't.
Because the worst thing that happens, you know, the IRS or somebody else wants to come audit you, they're always a year behind and trying to figure out what we did with today's receipt or the check to pay it. If it goes in an alpha file, you know, does it go in Denver, or does it go to Moose Lodge, or does it, you know, I mean, filing is always, you know, when they want you to see that, you know, to retrieve that hard copy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now scanned copies are as good as the original.
Yeah.
And so now, if somebody wanted to see it, they wouldn't even have to. Everything is electronic because you can actually just make it link to whatever they want to see because everything, each one of those documents is right there in your database. And even if it was 3 years ago, you can still go in and bring it back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in itself is you know, incredibly useful.
It is. Go ahead.
You know, a lot of clients find it overwhelming to maintain the system effectively and to have all of your paperless stuff, scanned documents. But for certain scenarios, if you absolutely don't want to put certain things in, I would highly recommend putting all copies of checks in. Because then later on down the road, you know, what if you switch accountants or CPAs or somebody, and then you're looking to look back at something, or what if you get audited, or what if, you know, then you're going to be paying later to get the information that was freely given to you when you have the chance. So if you want to upload those cash checks or whatever, I mean, I would highly recommend that, so that you can look at things later.
In my sense, I haven't seen how much volume Carmen's really processing. But even if you ran, you know, 10 checks a day, you could still scan those in a short amount of time.
Right.
And then you would have them.
Right,
And
right.
especially if you have the big feeder scanner, good one. Yeah,
Which we
I would recommend doing that one thing. If you're not uploading everything else, I would recommend doing that for sure. And I would also recommend uploading purchase orders for product. Because if there's any discrepancies, you know, you always want to go by what it said on their purchase order, regardless. So, yeah, I would highly recommend that.
Awesome. So I just hit paste. I'm currently in Excel. It doesn't look quite as nice, but you could totally play with it. So here's the piece that I copied from. I literally dragged from the entire table this, or if I just needed a part of the table, I selected it, Control-C to copy it. I flipped over to Excel, and technically this is now in Excel, okay? It literally is a physical spreadsheet.
So I
just
just
copy
copy
it.
and make all that stuff go away because that doesn't have any value.
Oh yeah. Like if you know what you're doing, you could totally be like, you're out of here. Boom, 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 boom. Slow, high. Okay, boom. Let's actually add up all of these values down here. Like if you know what you're doing and you're playing in spreadsheet land, you can actually have tons of fun. Okay, go here and you just start saying, okay, yep, that. Oh, okay, that was wider than I wanted, but
Just press Alt.
boom, 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 boom.
Equals.
And then basically you could even, or if you knew the exact column, so it's like C from C1 all the way down to C13. So I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to change the C1, and then do you guys remember, is it a comma or a colon to C13? And then I'll put the ending bracket on that thing. There's my total right out of Excel for what that was going on, which was actually technically in the same spot. It should have said the same number, but Adilas just puts it up here as part of the documentation. But once it's in Excel, you can start playing with it however you want. You might have to kind of tweak some stuff, but that's just a simple copy and paste. It's a temporary solution to that great idea of, let me get this data, okay? So that's no problem. Basically, it's your data. We don't really care about it. I say that lightly, but like we do care about it, but like, it's your data. It's your data. Okay?
My favorite analysis tool is a 13-column income statement,
Sure.
and you can just go through and look at line items, and it's pretty obviously there. Whereas the traditional current month, year to date, you don't see that something's missing. But you look at your cost of goods sold, and there's a big drop in it, and so you can go back and see that you missed something.
Awesome.
That's why
Like some of these different views and different requests and stuff, I can totally see some of these pieces of the puzzle coming in. Like especially as we get more people involved in who's going on, it's going to be fun to kind of see where it's going to go. But there's some great ideas still coming down the
Yeah, I think at
pipeline.
the moment, just to replicate like a monthly thing, like what I would do is just set the date range. Like unfortunately, I have to do it 12 times, and then you just export a PDF for each month, and then just kind of copy it, and then just format it, so you just have everything.
Yeah, and depending how complicated it is, I can even see myself just printing it out and keying it, because I can keep numbers.
Yeah.
But ideally, you want to
To get it.
describe like, hey, this is my date range for the year, like what's your frequency, like select monthly, and then boom, and then technically, I mean that's ideally that's what I want to do.
Yes, Roxanne.
So you can pretty much pull any kind of report from Adilas that you want. You could make it vendor specific, you could make it item category specific, you could make it date specific, you could make, I mean, I had mentioned to Carmen that, I'm sorry, this is off, I just kind of started working with these guys, but I had mentioned to Carmen that, I know she's very busy and to maintain and keep up her workload, that if you wanted to meet with me or any other owners or anybody, that, it might be more, I don't know, worth the
Advantageous.
time, advantageous, because I can sit there and you can tell me what you need as far as reports,
Yeah, I think-
what you need, and I'll help you find it.
That's going to be great, because
Yeah.
right now, Carmen is just, she's processing our information.
Right.
But it doesn't do any analysis of the information.
Right. So for you to just learn those tools of how you search for the information you need, or how you create the reports you want, or how, you and I, because you already know the accounting perspective, can already start the data there. We could already just start into the balance sheet, into reconciling, into whatever you want to do. I think she even reconciles, but whatever you want to look at, we could definitely do that without having to bother her. You know what I mean?
Think teams and think tag team and think
Whatever you want.
production line.
Whichever direction.
This
you
is
want.
how you play. This is how you play the game.
Compare numbers and ratios of it, because they should all have similar ratios, and I don't know that they do. And so
We
that's-
could definitely pull whatever report. I guarantee it's going to be rare that you're going to have to create something else outside of here to get what you're looking for.
But you do have to know where to look.
Right.
I think that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah. That way you can just pull what's already in there and you can do
So
whatever
my
you need.
goal this week was to get a great understanding of what Carmen was doing for us.
Mhm.
And then we're going to take it.
Awesome. So that was just a quick little small demo, but you can get stuff to Excel pretty easy, and that's going to keep it continuing to increase, okay?